Good morning. This Shabbat we read Zachor, remember what Amalek did to the Jewish people. And on Purim morning Thursday, in synagogues around the world, before we read the Megillah, we're going to read from the Torah to read about the ancestor of Haman, Amalek, the first anti-Semite who tried to destroy the Jewish people. And why is it that every year we have to remember about Amalek and Haman? Because the Torah wants us to understand that there is good and evil in this world. And the rabbis tell us in the Talmud that when Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Jewish people the commandment to remember Amalek, the Jewish people asked Moshe, we already had the commandment to remember the day of Shabbat, to make it holy. How can we have a commandment to remember Amalek? And the commentaries explain that the question the Jews were asking was, if you taught us to remember Shabbat because God made the world in 6 days and made every human being in His image, how can there be evil people in the world? Why is there a commandment to remember Amalek? And Moshe Rabbeinu answers the Jewish people and says, there are two cups. One is a cup of wine and one is a cup of vinegar. They're both cups, but one is wine and one is vinegar. And when Moses was teaching the Jewish people and answering their question was that if you want to understand why there's good and evil, the answer is that God did make every person to be sweet, tasty, delicious wine, rich in flavor and goodness. However, we, through our choices, sometimes turn the wine into sour vinegar. And so the Torah says, always remember that there's good and evil, because being forewarned is being forearmed, always being alert and aware that evil is lurking, and we therefore have to rise up and defeat evil. Unfortunately, sometimes the human nature is to be optimistic, to be positive, because that's the way we survive crises, by thinking optimistically. And sometimes we don't understand the threat until it's a little bit too late. Unfortunately, we see right now with the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, how Russia was amassing its troops, 100,000 troops on the border for well over a few months, but the world didn't believe that something so evil could actually happen. It's a story I once heard from a young woman, and the story was that her grandparents were very wealthy Jews who lived in Germany. And when Nazi hatred started to rise, and Jews were told to wear yellow stars, the Nazis parked a car, a Gestapo vehicle, in front of her grandparents' beautiful home in Germany to make sure that they don't escape. And the family had a celebration of their son's bar mitzvah, and they threw a big party and invited hundreds of guests. And then, when the party was over, all the guests started to leave. And the grandparents, her grandparents and their family members, put on their coats and their hats, and they left the party with all the guests, mingled amongst the guests. They walked a few blocks to their car that was waiting and began driving towards the border to escape Nazi Germany. By the time their own house staff and security realized that the hosts, the owners of the house, were gone, they called the Gestapo. But at that point, they had already crossed the border into safety, leaving everything they owned behind, their homes, their possessions, their Persian rugs, their fancy furniture, and all of their wealth behind. And yes, they walked out with their clothing on their back, but today their children and grandchildren are alive. And I realize that sometimes a Jew has to be ready to walk away, to leave in the middle of the party, or else it's too late. Let us hope and pray that we will learn the lessons of the past, and therefore we will stand up to defeat evil in every generation, including our very own generation. And this year, Purim, we will see the victory of good over evil, and the miracle of Purim will be celebrated not only for past miracles, but for present-day miracles in our generation. Have a wonderful day.